64, we think.
64.
Episode 64. That's only for my own organization purposes. As we line these podcasts up, we welcome you in, Mike Barrett, along with Pastor Mike Tatlock. I need to always...
That's not...
Jason Atkinson, the former wonderful senator and candidate for governor, he got after me one time. I wasn't addressing...
Is that what he said?
Oh, he's very formal in how he chooses to address pastors. And by the way, go online and check out Pastors Monday.
Yeah.
Jason, I talked to him last week.
Really
I got
good.
an update, and he has this pastor. We've talked about it before, and we had him on the show. Pastors Monday, Jason's world-class fly fisherman, and he started this thing just for pastors.
Yeah.
And basically take them fishing on a Monday, and he has no plan. There's no program. There's nothing. He just to take it, and then he just watches. And he's told me this. I watch the Lord do the rest. He'll throw two pastors, like in a drift boat. One of them is a pastor of a massive mega church, and one is a pastor in a small town of 40 people. And by the end of it, they're best friends.
Yeah.
And it's just so cool. And anyway, so he's got Oregon is sold out. He's starting Alaska. He's got Texas, North Carolina, Colorado. It's just taken off. And he's got these waiting lists for all these pastors going, yeah, I want to go. And again, fishing is secondary.
Yep.
It's more just about fellowship and getting these guys away and getting some time. And sometimes, and this is, you can go back and listen to that episode when we had Jason on, but I love this, that he said this because you know me, this is what I believe. There's so many times, and people in my life that I know, they want instant result on a relationship or a conversation. And I always say to somebody, and I've said this to my wife, said it to you before, after, how'd it go? Not that you said that, but some people do. And I'll say that was conversation 1 of 15, maybe.
Yep.
So let's just let that go, and we'll see what the Lord does with it. Well, he had a story, and I think he might have told it on our podcast, that it took 4 trips by this one pastor who's driving 7 hours to come to Pastors Monday. On the 4th trip, he finally started to hear that nobody asked him. The guy started to open up about what was paining him in that, what was his struggles were in that current time, and how some of these guys, and you would know this because you are a pastor and an NBA team chaplain, how bad some of their self-talk is, how bad some of their self-image images are, sometimes even self-esteem. And I know you wouldn't think this, but I'm drawn to times, and this is a little bit different, but when you hear about certain sports figures, celebrities, movie stars, and then you learn what was going on secretive in their life, either a trouble or an addiction, or guys that, there's guys, Robin Williams types, and I think of these guys that like end up, whatever they were trying to soothe that pain with kills them, and it does happen. And so I think not only the anxiety and the pile up from that for pastors, and I didn't think I was going this way to start this one. I usually try to set you up as something a little lighter. This is not that way, but where your focus is and what you see when you look in the mirror. And that isn't always healthy. And I think for guys, especially for pastors, and this is why the success, I guess is why this fits, of something like Pastors Monday can help get that conversation started, which helps change that self-focus and that self-image.
Well, I think this is a good segue to everything. It's actually a great way to tee it up. And because there's a lot of you listening going, I'm not a pastor. What does this do with me? And you'll see why. We'll connect us with a struggle I think every guy is struggling with right now, which is that self-image, the lies, the voices in your head. And I guarantee you, every guy that's listening right now is going, I got 1,000 voices in my head, and how do I manage that? And some of these voices, there's actually something, there's a pandemic. I'll bring it back to the pastor thing because I think it'll tie in well, but there's a pandemic that's called Deaths of Despair. Deaths of Despair. And I think that it's growing. It's actually it's a point of where and we're seeing it high amongst men right now at all ages, including young men, older men, middle age. And it's where men are dying. It's actually in the medical community. Deaths of despair is a category they came up with. I think we've talked about this before in the podcast. It's a category that they saw so many deaths related to drugs, alcohol, depression that was leading to the fatalities of men skyrocketing in the last 10 years. That they're like, whoa, we can't ignore this anymore. There's too much of this. This is related too much to men specifically, but also why are these guys dying from, again, drugs, alcohol, depression, all that? And they called it, the label they called it is deaths of despair. What is despair? Despair means hopelessness. And so you got men who are waking up day going, man, I've lost. So there's voices in our heads that are convincing us it's not worth it, convincing us that I'm a piece of garbage. I'll never be anything. There's nothing for my life. I don't matter. Nothing matters. I can't please everybody. I'm failing everybody, blah, blah. This cycle just continues to go so strong that you get to this dark place where you're like, man, I'm depressed all the time. I'm discouraged all the time. I suck as a husband, suck as a dad, suck as a man. I can't get a job. I'm never good enough at my job. I can't make enough of this. I'm not good enough of this, that. Those voices get so loud. It's amplified. Pastors, man, we struggle with that. People think that just because we're supposed to be, really connected with God, somehow we are immune to that. And I would say every job has its own hazard pay, for all of us. There's its own hazards with no matter what job. So not to say us pastors to solicit self-pity and all that, but I think one of the challenges of pastor that we all face is that when you look at the role description of a pastor, it's one thing on paper, but practically speaking, there's no other job when you're supposed to be a therapist, a counselor, a theologian,
a million other things,
a community leader, an outreach coordinator, a best friend, this or that. You kind of like
husband, father.
You add all of it up and you go, it's the impossible job, because each and every one of those comes with a massive amount of expectations. I was just in a meeting with some pastors this morning, and this came up where it's you plus you have to be the best customer service rep, and because if there's any complaint,
donuts can't be stale, coffee's got to taste good.
Yeah, all of that. And by the way, I hope you come up with a good sermon this week on top of all of that, because don't bore us again. So you got to always bring something fresh and new and all that. And not that we should. I'm just saying that's the pressure and the expectation that you're under. And so what happens is, that's why right now, I think it's like, I read something recently, I think it's like somewhere in the 40% of pastors are resigning every year.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, there's a trend now. And well, now you amp that up with the politics because, damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I've heard that from enough guys. And because now everybody wants you to be a demagogue and wants you to really, stick it to whatever side they want you to. Right. And so you're never enough this, you're never enough that. And so anyways, it just adds a lot of the complexity. And so then guys are just beat down, just constantly. I told some guys this morning that you just always have voices in your head. And these voices are around expectations. This isn't enough. This is enough. You're not doing this enough. You're not doing this enough. And you're like, and meanwhile you're sacrificing and you're pouring out, and it's never enough. It's never enough. There's always the voices that you should be doing it this way and this way. And that's what leads to, and I meet with pastors all over the world. It's not just the U.S., it's everywhere.
And it's funny, I see, well, this is in myself too. My gosh, really bad. But I was thinking about when you see a guy or a friend, and we always talk about those conversations where they snap, and not snap, but I always think, okay, that was the comment that affirmed in their mind how they were thinking about themselves. Totally. Now they're going to lash out most likely.
Absolutely.
And I do that.
Yep.
But that is, it doesn't take much at that point. And even, because I always have been, I've always had a challenge with this stuff. And I've talked about this before, and I don't know, probably just maybe hardwired challenge, but then a lot of and it's not because some people have, when I've mentioned that to other friends before, they've said, well, your dad was a coach, and so he's coaching other men, so you never felt like. I said, I don't think that's it. I'm not going to put that on him either. That wasn't. It had nothing to do with that. But maybe from a criticism standpoint, or you can always be better, which is what coaches always like to say.
Oh, totally.
And my dad was a big believer in that, and I think I listened to that as a kid. And so nothing is ever good enough.
Exactly.
It doesn't ever approach being good enough. So what I have noticed now, and my wife knows this, if there's a time when, and she said to me before, if she makes a remark and I snap back, not loud, but just a out of character snap back, and then she can say, wow, you're being kind of oversensitive. And what I want her to discern from that, this isn't her job, but I want her to discern from that is my self-talk has been killing me lately.
Yes, exactly.
And it didn't take me very much to break that ice.
Yep.
And all of a sudden we got a flood.
Yep.
Not a bad one. You know what I mean? Personal.
Yep.
And then I've said, no matter, and we don't have these conversations very often, but whatever you're thinking I am coming up short in, I'm way ahead of you.
Yeah, it's so true.
I'm way down that road.
Yep.
And what I have noticed now, and there are times that I'll make a little progress, and I will say this, and I think this has been help from you and help from others, where we started to term it a spiritual attack. And once I could start to say that and say, okay, maybe it's a spiritual attack, and that's what is. And so now I have other friends who will text me and say, dude, I need your prayers right now because I feel like I'm under attack.
Exactly.
And usually I say, what are you feeling? What, but I love that other men are starting to practice and sharpen their discernment to knowing when they're under attack, because that way, it's not from you.
Yeah.
And that's what was comforting to me in the midst of that. And I will say the one area that I've made a little progress in the horrible self-talk, and it's still there, believe me. But the one area I've made an improvement in is I can start to feel it coming.
Yes.
Because what I do is, and it can be, and I mentioned this, I don't know, recently, that usually early in the week is where I start to feel like I'm failing, or I'm not achieving, or I'm not progressing on. This is usually something having to do with, professional life, but can be other stuff too, being a dad, whatever. I can feel that. I know what's next. It's a slippery slope. And if I take that bite, and it's almost at times, and I explained this to a friend the other day, and I don't know if it made sense. It was on a text. It's almost comforting to start down the road of negative self-talk.
Oh, totally.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's
absolutely.
easy.
Absolutely.
It's the easy way out
easy.
to start destroying yourself. And I had one of these bouts a week or so ago. Nobody really knew about it, but it was one day. Well, my wife knew about it a little bit, but it wasn't a really negative thing. But she noticed I got really oversensitive on one thing. Kind of wasn't myself the rest of the evening. The next morning, and I'm just being really honest, it felt like I had a hangover, and I didn't. And so it was later on that afternoon, and even the next day, I still felt this pall over myself, and I thought, I'm hungover from a horrible inner battle and bad self-talk. So what I'm saying is, as I'm getting older, when you do have those times, and guys, you know what I'm talking about. You have a time when you have just beaten yourself to a pulp internally. It takes a physical toll. Even though you wouldn't think it would, and even younger and an athlete like I was, and then being on TV all those years, calling games, and at times after a big broadcast, I'd have some fan tear me up, and that happened a lot. I mean, we had a lot of positive, but I'd focus, of course, on the negative. But that would never bother me that much. I mean, I'd go, oh crap, who, and then I'd want to find out what they say, and it bothered me, but I knew it was kind of usually kind of crazy and not really my fault. But it's gotten through a period the last 5 or 6 years, not good, not healthy. And I like the fact, as I said a minute ago, that I'm at least a little bit more discerning as far as when I feel it and I can label it, and that helps. It's silly, but if that helps, if you can start to say I'm coming under attack, because we know, especially guys, if you're having progress at something, the enemy's going to come at that. And if you're starting to make a difference,
exactly.
If you're starting to make a difference in somebody's life or a friend's life, or he's going to start taking shots at you, and he knows where you're weak. And that's where I am weak. And at the very least now, I know it sounds like a little small victory. At the very least now, I can feel when it's coming. And when I take the first arrow, I know there's going to be more to follow.
What do you do?
So I've got to build up a wall early.
Okay. How do you do that? That's what I was going to ask
I
you.
don't know. Honestly, I have not figured that out completely yet. But I'm usually driving in my truck. For some reason, I can feel that. And I will visibly say out, in the name of Christ, I rebuke these thoughts. And I try to do that over and over again. I think you taught me that. And I've seen that too. I've seen other pastors preach on that. I know it sounds very elementary, guys, but in the name of Jesus, I have the power to rebuke these thoughts right now, and I am kicking them out of my head.
Wow.
And I don't always succeed at that. But at least I think for me, that tends to place blame on where it's coming from. And it doesn't mean that I don't have things to take responsibility for. It doesn't mean I'm throwing it on somebody else, but I can feel that attack coming.
Yes.
And I'm not always successful, but there have been times of success where by saying that and saying, I'm not going down that path today. I am not doing this today, where I start just dismantling every part of myself. You piece of crap. You're not worth anything. You're not succeeding as a husband, a father, in your work, as a friend. I mean, and boy, it's just like you're getting hammered by Tyson against the ropes, and you're just getting blown, and they come so fast. And that's the reason why I feel like a first early good step is you have got to recognize when they're coming, and you got to get your guard up and stop, take a time out.
I like the analogy you just went with, the Tyson getting in the ring, because you are, every punch you take.
A young Tyson.
A young Tyson. It's funny, the other day we were watching, I don't know what we were watching, my wife, and she goes, Tyson was on. Oh, they were, anyways, it was an Olympic thing, and somebody was interviewing him, giving commentary on the Olympics, and my wife and I met him one time.
Iron Mike?
Oh, yeah, we met him. He was actually really nice. He didn't
Mike.
bite my ear off or anything.
I like Mike.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
I do.
He was actually a great dude.
He's great.
Hung out with him for a few minutes and talked with him, and just, anyways.
You know why we like him is because he's so authentic. He wears it on his sleeve.
He does. He totally does.
I love that. How do you not like that? It's like John Daly, same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Big John, and he just
to golf with John Daly.
Yeah, well, we've just ridden. And granted, it's been in the public eye, but we've ridden his highs and lows, and he'll just tell you about them.
Yeah.
I lost $20 million gambling, and I was drunk when I tried to make the cut at the British Open. I mean, he'll tell you whatever, and I love that about him. But I love
just
that
the
about
honesty
Mike.
about it.
Anyway, sorry, you're going to Mike.
But that honesty, vulnerability, transparency is vital, because when you're in the ring and you're just getting beat, lie, self-talk, negativity, the enemy's just pounding down you, and you got to have somebody in your corner. One, you got to get your own guard up. So like you said, is recognize this. This is really the enemy doing this to me. Yeah. That's what's happening right now. So you recognize where it's coming from. And then after that, you got to have somebody that pulls you back and, speak those words of life over you, encourage you. Because you know what's interesting on this is because you were talking about your analogy of, because you said earlier, you already beat yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
And we're sometimes our worst critics, but the enemy knows that, and he feeds our self-criticism.
So you start to hear that,
exactly,
even when they didn't mean that.
Oh, so true.
And why? And your wife,
yes,
she'll know this.
Exactly.
My wife knows it.
Oh, 100%.
She's like, I didn't say that. How did you get that from what I just said?
Oh,
and it's like, because the script was already written, and it didn't matter what words you threw in there. I was going to complete it.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to finish your own thought, no matter what you said.
Yep.
But also, I realized too, and this is okay to say this. This comes back to what you're saying, that honest vulnerability is like, man, this stuff starts adding up. There's a verse in the Bible where Jesus talks about Satan as the father of lies. And he's, man, Satan's the father of lies. And then he says right after that, and he's a murderer. And Jesus connected lies and murder. And I think that every time Satan throws a lie at us, it's a punch. You suck. You're worthless. You're a piece of garbage. You're never going to amount to anything. You're a horrible dad. You're a horrible father. You're a horrible employee. You're this or this or that. Every one of those is a lie with the intent of a deadly knockout punch. And I think what happens is, for some of us, we take hit after hit after hit. Sometimes it's the slow death. Sometimes it's like, man, I've been in the ring, and it's like, it's the one lie which we go, well, that didn't seem like very good.
Death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Death by 1,000 paper cuts. And if you're in the ring with someone that's just pounding you over and over again, it may not be like an uppercut, total like knockout punch, but you take 50 to 100 of those to the head, and now you have, traumatic brain injuries, and you're not thinking straight, and you're knocked out, and then you might die from that. Whereas sometimes the enemy comes at you with one single hard punch. I lost my job, or somebody left me, betrayed me, and those are knockout punches. Because what we do is we go to the first thought, which is, man, I'm whatever, bam. And then also we know the enemy does a bunch of low blows and takes us out there too, and because he doesn't play by any rules. He's unsportsmanlike. So he's going to come at any vulnerability, and where are we most vulnerable? He's going to attack that. So I have insecurities. Satan knows them. He's gonna come at those insecurities. It's a low blow. He doesn't play by the rules. Whatever's gonna bring me to my knees.
What's weirdest too is when you say that is I always feel like if I can get the deck cleared, and sometimes it takes think about like if you're playing Jenga, and you're pulling pieces out of the Jenga puzzle before it falls.
Oh yeah.
That's what it's like for me. If those are negative thoughts.
Yes. Yeah.
And as they pile up, and then one pulls out, the wrong one pulls out, whatever, the whole thing falls down. What I mean by that, and I didn't plan to make some cute Jenga reference, but I thought of that or House of Cards, if you want to say that. Once the deck's cleared, once I've had one of those times where I'm just like, and sometimes it takes a deep discussion with my wife, and I mean, never anything that's, we don't do that. We don't scream and yell, but there can be, it discourages her so much to see me go. And she knows when I'm in one of those internal wrestling matches, once I've had a bad one, like I said, that even feels like a hangover when your your thoughts get that bad.
Oh yeah.
Then I'm okay for a while. Then you can throw some thoughts, throw some comments, whatever. I'm not going to take them that way. And I don't know. I don't have an answer for this. I'm asking you, or I'm just throwing it out there, because other guys I would imagine go through the same thing. Over a while, they start to, if you don't clean them out, it's almost like a chimney, It's like, if you're not cleaning it, and I don't know how yet to do that other than to talk about it like this is really healthy. Then they pile up.
Yep.
They pile up. And then once I have one of those times of, all right, moron, how dumb was, and that doesn't help, obviously, calling yourself a moron. But that's just the way that's maybe self-motivation, if I can use that as an escape. But once I clear that out a little bit with a little bit of help, then I'm okay for a bit. Like I said, it's just, but when they pile and you aren't recognizing, and I don't always recognize it, that you're starting to get a backlog of negative thoughts and things, like you said, paper cuts. You got to know they're there, because then you get to the point where, like as you said, it's going to take is one more and the dam's going to break. Yeah. And I don't want it to break on guys. And I've seen it happen with men where it breaks, and we hear stories, and all these stories about that guy. He had it all going, man. He had a great family. He was coaching Little League. Why would he take his own life? And we have those guys in our community and stories that I hear, and guys that are a degree or two separated from me, where I'm like, I know of that guy. And his friends are like, he never brought up a thing. No. So I think when you asked me a minute ago, what do I do when that happens, when you start to go down that road, I'm getting better about it. And I mentioned a minute ago how I get texts from a couple of friends of mine once in a while where I've encouraged them.
Yep.
When you feel like you're under attack, just tell me.
Yeah.
You don't have to go into detail. Just say, hey man, today I could use a prayer because there's one of those days where I'm getting attacked.
Yep.
And I think, obviously, I hope the prayer helps, but I hope them saying that helps.
Exactly.
Expose it.
That's it.
Shine the light on it.
That's
because
it.
the guys that I just talked about are the guys you end up hearing about and reading about.
Yep.
They're the guys who never shined a light on it. And that eats you alive.
What do you think is, why have we, I think we're getting better at this, but why do we not, let's go practical here, Mike. Like, let's say boss has been just chewing you up and, and you're not performing right and you keep hearing about it. And so that's just weighing on you. Your wife's nagging you about some stuff. You're not doing this enough with the kids. And, I heard a guy the other day and he's like, I work hard and I come home, my wife's like, if you were here more, they wouldn't miss you so much. And he's like, now I suck as a dad. And he's like, but I'm here all the time. I can't leave work when she wants me to because I'm halfway through the day. And I get she's tired and exhausted. Point of it being is that it's like a scale, or like the Jenga thing you said was really good, is it's this fragile thing that just keeps getting built. And it's one comment, it's one negativity, it's one this, one this, one this.
Yeah. And if the woodshed's full, you're gonna have a fire, and that's exactly. That's the plan. But go ahead with the question.
Does. And then we see a guy like you just said. We wake up on the news. You go, that guy.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering. I saw, and I'll come back because I want to ask you a question. So I'll ask you the question so you can think about it. Then I'll make a reference to something, a commercial I saw. Why do we as men feel we can't reach out to another guy and say, hey, I'm getting beat up right now? Why is it? That's my question. Why do we as men hold it all in and not express like, man, I'm feeling beat up right now. I got so much negative thoughts. I've got stuff that's going on. Why? So think about that. And I want to come back to that in like 10 seconds. But I saw a sobering commercial the other day, and it was all about this. And it showed two guys. They're in a ball stadium. They're watching a baseball game. And it just shows a crowd, right? And it shows these two guys, and you can tell they're buddies, and they go to every game. They probably got season tickets, right? And one guy's just super sad. He's not cheering for anything. The other guy's like standing, he's cheering. He's like hitting his buddy on the shoulder, like, Dukes, come on, let's go. And it shows game after game after game after game after game. And this one guy's just sitting there, and he's just depressed looking. He doesn't celebrate anything. The other guy's like, yeah, this is awesome. He's got a beer in his hand, a hot dog. He's like, man, having the time of his life. And then it cuts. And all next thing you know is only the guy that's depressed is sitting there. And the other guy's empty seat. And the commercial makes the point and says, that's the guy that took his life. Because on the outside, he was like, life is great, life is good. But he was the one that was really the depressed one. And he was living this masquerade of life is good. And it basically said, like, hey, what you see on the outside is not really what guys are feeling on the inside. Some of us go through life and we look on the outside. That guy's got his life together. That guy, look at him, man. Like that guy. Wow. He's outgoing. He's got 1 million friends. He's always encouraging and building things up. He's dying on the inside. And that might be the guy that's maybe hiding it the most or he's trying to deal with it by himself the most. Like it would be a failure to come and say, I can't handle these criticisms. It's a failure that I have this negative. I'm not strong enough mentally, and so it's an admission to my own, weakness of my mind and thinking, and that you have the negative thoughts, but then on top of that, you add the pressure that you got to somehow self-remedy it by yourself, and now that leads you to a worse conclusion. I don't know. I think some of this has to do with, yes, we have to own our own thoughts, which we can talk about, but how does that play in to where we don't become an island either? Well,
that's one of the most key verses in the Bible for me is take every thought captive.
Yep.
Because that to me is that's the kryptonite to this behavior we're talking about. That's the ultimate defense. I mean, and I know this is a pretty general thing. And honestly, as we started this subject, which is really going to be more about, and it still will be, but talking about what we focus on, we become was kind of my point in giving this subject for this episode. Now it's kind of gone back to the main reason we kind of started doing this podcast in the first place.
Yep.
Was to kind of tell guys, as we've talked about, that you're not alone. But I think and to give you some tools, hopefully, and some experiences. And if that means being completely authentic and talking about our own, I mean, I got them, man. I do. You asked why, guys. I think, and that's the other thing, talk about basic things you're trying to do, and that in your role as a pastor, one of the things that is the nearest and dearest to your heart, along with getting people in community groups, and we're in one, and where you sit and kind of meet as couples. The other one is cohorts, and we have one, and we just met the other night.
Yep, we did that,
and we went until, I mean, I know when I'm going to have them, and they're usually late at night, but we don't go an hour or two over coffee. We went from 8:45 until almost 2 a.m. the other night.
Yep.
And my wife always knows when I'm going out. We're gonna meet tonight. Fireside chat. Yep. I always say, and she goes, "Okay, fireside chat. Go get them." And she knows I'll see you about 2 or 3 in the morning. Because it just, and you know what? I know not everybody has that, but you got to make that time.
Yep.
You got to make that time, and you got to get those guys in your life you can talk to. And maybe for your way initially, like it is with some friends I have tried to encourage, maybe it's a text chain for a while.
Exactly.
It's okay.
It's a start.
It is a start. And asking the questions without being that guy. And by that guy, don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
And then I have some friends, as you were talking about a minute ago, the thing with the guy at the ballpark. So don't hear me wrong. I love optimistic people. I do. I love the guy who walks in and has it all. Every time you see, I am doing fantastic. And I've got friends like that. And when I kind of chuckle when I see it, because even like I'm thinking this more in a business type setting where it's all going to be great. And I think, dude, you're faking it. I mean, you can tell me how you really are doing. And I honor that you are taking every thought captive and you're trying to be really positive. But I also think sometimes optimism, and I know this sounds terrible. It's not a fault, but over the top optimism all the time. I want to see what's inside. And maybe there isn't. Maybe you do have it all together and you're great. But I think that number's really, really small. And it's a really, really rare guy who can pull that off. And if you can, God bless you. And then teach us. Teach us. Exactly. Help us to figure out why we're screwing up in this way. And I think it's okay to say that we are. And that's why I'm trying to be authentic here and tell you how bad I struggle with this. I always have.
But see, here's the thing, though. And then you don't want to become the other extreme where you go, I don't give a rip what anybody thinks about. And they just live in this.
And that's fake, too, though.
It is. And it's like, no, I don't think anybody that you say that. I think that's a facade of like, I don't care what anybody says, man. I'm say whatever I want, and nobody.
And I got those friends too.
Yeah, and it's like, nah, I think you do care. I think you're just in denial of it.
Or maybe you should care a little bit.
Do you think for you, because I struggle with this, so do you struggle with this? When I have this self-hate talk and self-negative talk and all that stuff, it usually comes from somebody said something, and I begin to agree with it. And I've told people, like, it's okay when a thought sets up camp. Before you know it, when it moves into the house, we have to evict those thoughts. But what I can do is put a welcome mat out, and I welcome the thought. I dwell on it, and then it's in the house, and then it's starting to take over, and the house being my heart, my mind, and so forth. And I'm giving way too much real estate, and it's in there. But we all do that. I get it. But here's something like my wife will sometimes know it, and I don't talk about it. It's not pride, it's not ego. You know, for me, I don't want to burden her with it.
Absolutely right.
You knew where I was going.
Just going there. No, I was just going to say
exactly
the reason why so often It is a comment your wife makes. It's because she's the one person that you care the most about and that you do not want to disappoint.
Yep.
And when you've got a pile of those thoughts already stacked up to the top and the back of your head, all it takes is one more that maybe you did take it wrong. Maybe you were oversensitive. But ladies, if you are listening, it's not oftentimes because he's just being obnoxious and oversensitive. It's because you're the one person that he wants to completely have success with in terms of not letting you down and being that guy who has what it takes. And he wants to illustrate and show you that. But you have such a pile of crap in the back of your brain that on that given night, when you had worked all day on the car or something and she saw one spot that you missed and she didn't mean to, she was trying to help, but that starts the avalanche of, I guess I just suck then and I can't do all, and it can be something as stupid as that and as silly as that. But, and sometimes I think it's imagining for ladies, it can be imagining that he's got all this built up negative energy toward you or problem with something you have done. It's not. I think most of the time it's not. In fact, I would guess 95% of the time it's not. It's that you're now, and sorry, we have to do this too, and this is the teeter-totter that we're on in a marriage. Sit there and let him, hopefully give him the space to talk about these things and to at least remedy, hopefully, some of that negative talk. And usually, and I know this is the case with me, and I don't always know it right away. Sometimes it takes me a while or a day or two to dump all that stuff out on the table and sort through it before I clean it off.
Wow. You
can tell I've thought about this a little bit. I'm not any good at it, but I have thought about it.
And I think that's those who we value the most have the most weight on their words. And so who we respect the most, our wives, of course, and anybody that we put a lot of respect in, their words carry more weight, and they can be lethal. Mm-hmm. It's a lethal dose,
and sometimes they don't really know it.
No,
and so it's not always their fault. It can be an innocent comment.
Exactly.
But when you know that, when something seems off, like that was an innocent comment, and he went, I could tell it crushed him. Well, it wasn't that comment, and it wasn't anything else you did. It was just a tinderbox ready to be set off. And that was the spark.
Yep.
And sorry that we're human in that and we're trying. But sometimes that is all it takes.
I had that happen. This is a total confession.
Oh, good, because that's all I've been doing.
Yeah, this happened the other day in our house. So my poor wife, she's amazing, and she this is my confession. She does the dishes more than I should be doing that. So, but you'll see where this is just total transparency. So poor thing, she does dishes all the time, more than she should, and so there was a plastic measuring stick or measuring. You know when you do like what do they call it? Measuring spoons? The plastic measuring spoons, teaspoons, tablespoons, all that. She had baked some stuff. She's amazing. She baked us bread or something. Well, one of those stupid little plastic measuring things gets jammed in our garbage disposal.
Yeah.
I mean, jammed in there, right? And so I'm in there watching the Olympics and stuff. She goes, "Hey, babe," she goes, you could hear it. Like, it's just not, this thing ain't working. She's like, "Hey, this thing got jammed up." And I said, "You know what? It was late at night." I said, "Tomorrow I'll get it as soon as I get home from work." And so I drive home. I'm like, busy day, long day. I dealt with some criticism on a lot of stuff. And it's, just voices in my head, hearing different people like, okay, not enough of this, not enough of this. How come you're not doing this, this, and this? So I was not in the best frame of mind. But I come home and I'm like, I'm gonna take care of that freaking garbage disposal because I want to hit one out of the park for my wife. I want her to be like, "Oh, he's home." I want the celebration of all that.
Rescuer.
I beeline it straight in while I'm taking phone calls and dealing with somebody who's dealing with massive depression on something. As a pastor, so I'm like on the one, I'm literally in one hand like dealing with somebody who's dealing with something, and I'm like I'm I'm dealing with the garbage disposal. So I get off the phone, I get all the tools out and stuff. Long story short, she walks over and she makes just this simple comment about how I was, and she was trying to help because she was talking about, "I think it's full of water. If you tip it this way, it's going to spill out all over everything." And she was looking out for me that I wouldn't have this thing dump water over me. Well, I already knew it was empty because I had taken care of that, but she didn't know that. She was trying to help me. What a super sweet, innocent little comment or whatever. And I didn't say anything, but because I don't yell at her. But what I did do is she made that comment. I said, hey, and I said it so sarcastic. I said, hey, babe, I just came up with this great idea how this could never happen again. I said, hey, could you just open the drawer over there and grab every stinking one of those plastic measures? If we just dump those out right now, then this will never happen again. And I said it just like that. And she just walked out of the kitchen. Like it was her fault that she used a plastic measuring thing to bake the amazing homemade bread that we all love, right?
Yeah.
But it was just one little over-the-shoulder comment about, and I pulled the whole thing. I had to strip the whole thing down. It took me a long time to get all the tools out. And I put it all back together again, and I turn it on, and it works amazing. And I was waiting for the applause from the living room for her. No. It was just silence, I was waiting for the like I had just, like I had just won a gold medal, right?
Right.
Nothing. And so inside I'm going, really? Where's the oh yes, you did that. I'm like, I didn't deserve that but my point was, I think we're always dealing with deficits and bankruptcies in our identity. And so we're already in a deficit, beating ourselves up. All it takes is one little thing. I'm going to say something extremely controversial. Well, it may not be extremely, but it is controversial. Because I think this is, tell me if you struggle with this. And here's the analogy, and I'll use it in marriage because if some of you are listening, you're single, this still applies. You'll get this because you could apply this to work, your boss. It applies to everybody. But let's say that I say no to 10 things because I'm going to prioritize date night. Let's say my wife and I, Thursday night, we had made plans. And let's say that same Thursday night that we made plans to go out to dinner, I was offered courtside seats.
Mm-hmm.
I was offered a guy's weekend to go play golf, all expenses paid.
Hunting trip.
These incredible things, right? And I
up.
said no to every single one of them. Why? Because I wanted to make sure I kept date night. I didn't even come home and say, hey, babe, what if we moved date night? Well, she would have done 100%.
Sure.
I didn't even put that ball in her court. I literally said no, threw myself on the sword because I'm going to, and I come home. She doesn't know that. Why would she know that? And I say absolutely nothing about how I really prioritize her and us. And I come home and we do date night. You know what's going through my mind the whole time?
I do.
You know where I'm going with this. Exactly. She has no idea. No idea. Right? And I think and I want you to add to that because there's a lot more I could say to that.
Yeah, of course.
But this is where I go. I would like to come home and go.
That's transactional.
It's transactional. I would love to come home, walk through the door, lay my keys on the counter, and so, babe, you want to know how amazing of a husband I am to you? Right. Just let me enlighten you. I had 3 incredible offers.
Yeah.
That any other man would have taken those and never thought about it. Would have asked for postpone our date night, And I just lay this all out and go, do you know the kind of man you're married to? Wanting the accolade and wanting her to get up and go, oh, my hero, you're my man. You're the best, right? The reason I paint that scenario, because I think it's actually based on a lot of truth, is we beat ourselves up because it's so easy to highlight our deficiencies.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that with our job and our boss in life, there's a lot of things we do that we don't get recognized for. And it's a scary transactional world when it always comes down to I'm doing things just for the applause. That's not healthy.
Yeah.
Because if you only do it for the applause and you don't get it, it's the wrong motivation because it always is going to lead you to the wrong emotions when it's not there. That's destructive, unhealthy living. My point in saying that is, as the negative thoughts come in, it's so easy to always focus on the negative when we never acknowledge the positive. We never even not self build ourselves up like, oh, I'm all this and I'm all that. But why do we just focus on the negative? And we really don't spend enough time acknowledging the positive wins every day. This is the controversial part. Do you know how many times I didn't lust today? Do you know how many times I didn't flirt or take it to that next when that woman interacted with me at the gas station? I don't come home and say it to my wife, like, hey, just so you know. How stupid is that, right? But I know in my own heart that today, these 20 victories might be small, might be big, was a win. And not that I need to be patted on my back because I'm not out there running some crazy lifestyle. That's not what I'm advocating for. I'm just saying I think there is an inequilibrium that we're always dealing with in our identity and our securities. And if I look to people to balance that versus God, I'm always going to be disappointed, and I'm always going to be up, down, depressed based on people's reactions or lack of reactions and so forth. And so then I'm giving people control. And this all comes back to the verse you said, take every thought captive. Because if I don't take the thought captives, they take captive of me. And if I give people too much power of their thoughts of me, then based on how they respond to me, holds me captive or sets me free. And that's such a schizophrenic way of being. And so how do we take thoughts captive?
Yeah.
How do we get there into a place where it's good that people encourage us? It's good that we reach out and say, hey, I'm struggling right now with this negative thoughts and lies and being depressed and defeated. And I do need you to speak over me because that's how God encourages us. We do need human encouragement, human building each other up, as the Bible says.
Affirmation.
We do need that.
I know.
And we need that communal piece.
Even if we don't know if we can't admit that we need that.
Exactly.
Because we, as men, we don't want to admit that we need that.
Exactly.
But in speaking about the transactional aspect of this, I almost thought it made me think about, as it relates to how we view God, and you were talking about this a moment ago when you started to, which with all of these stories and with all of these scenarios, we can kind of relate it back to that. And so I always think about it in this way. Because I have people ask these questions about bad things happening to good people. So if he took away all the suffering and hardship and turmoil for Christians, wouldn't that essentially be a way to bribe people into the faith?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
And isn't that the transactional part of it that we were just talking about a second ago that we do with friends and our wives? Totally. And, back to the, I kind of knew where you were going with the garbage disposal story. Here's how wacky I am. This shows you where that story would have gone sideways in my house would have been if I got home ready to do it and she had already done it.
Oh yeah.
And I thought that's where you were going.
I've done that. Oh my
because
gosh.
That's what she will do. And she does it. I've been there a million times too. She means so well.
I know.
But she'll say,
I don't want to burn.
Have you gotten to that squeaky closet door yet? And I'm like, yeah, I'll get that later. I know I haven't. And I know it's been 3 days. And then I'll go up there and she's done it already. And I'm like, you just cut my balls off. And I know you didn't mean to. I know you didn't mean to. You were so sweet to do that. Exactly. But all that did was click on a neon light for how I failed because I didn't do it. And
one more thing I'd failed
exactly.
At.
And then she had to do it.
Yep.
As busy as she is and doing more things than I am and tutoring kids and driving or whatever. And our kids are old enough to drive now, but you know what I mean? It's all of that stuff. And then it's like, and I would have rather, and I told her this one time, I would have rather you gave me a tongue lashing and get up there right now and do it rather than do it yourself, because that was worse. I'm like, oh crap. Now I know I wasn't man enough to go take care of that. So that's why I was squirming over here in my chair when you were getting to the garbage disposal story. and you had gotten there and you said you'd set the tools out, and I thought where you were going, because that's where it was going to hit me hard, is that she had already fixed it.
Oh no, not this time. Not this time. And my wife's the type that's really good at fixing. She's actually good at that kind of stuff. And she has her own toolbox and everything because she loves that. And she likes, and there's been so many times when I'll do that. And I didn't, got busy. And she's like, you know what? I'm not even going to buy. That's the worst. That is the worst when she goes, I've asked him 3 times.
Yep. I guess he can't do it.
I guess he can't do it. And I come home and my man card just got shredded.
Yep.
Because it has nothing to do with, because there's a lot of guys going, isn't it okay if your wife is better with her handiwork? It's not about that. It's the fact that there's a responsibility that I could have taken care of instead of her. And because I know I could do that. And she was asking me to do that. And I didn't do that. And then by her doing it without me.
Now you both know you failed.
Exactly. Oh, it is so demoralizing. And that could be mowing the lawn. I come home and it's like, crap.
She's out there pregnant and pushing the lawnmower around, and you're just a-hole of the month.
It's so true.
I know.
It's true. But again, that comes back to that scorekeeping of like, okay, I failed on that one. Granted, got it. We all know, in fact, all of our neighbors now know that I suck because they saw my pregnant wife mowing the lawn. So now the world knows. Can't keep that inside. And yet, there was my guess is, unless you're a total deadbeat, my guess is unless you're a total deadbeat, and that's for another podcast where it's like you're just sitting with your wife beater drinking a beer and you never got off the couch. It's been 7 days and you're just watching reruns of Three's Company. Like, okay, that if that's a deadbeat, right? Well, I'm not talking about that. I don't think most guys are deadbeats, to be honest with you. I don't think they are. I think most guys are just overwhelmed. And they're trying to do their best, meeting the expectations at work and the pressure to perform there so that I can make a paycheck. I can try to get a little bit ahead, or I'm running around trying to get my kid to football practice or trying to get, this and that. And so when those things happen, it erases that one thing I didn't do or 2 things I did do. Yep. It just erased the 10 or 20 things I did do that week that I did step up on. And I think that's that transactional equilibrium we've been talking about is, and it does take, just like we've said this too in ministry. I remember years ago, a guy told me, he goes, do you ever get encouragement cards from people in your church? I'm like, yeah, totally, all the time. He's like, just so you know, keep those in a file. I said, why? He goes, for every one of those, or he said it this way. He goes, for every one negative comment, it's going to take 100 of those positive thank you cards. It just is what it is. The criticism has a louder voice, a louder echo. And why
is that?
And that's the thing is, why
are we built that way?
I think some of it's spiritual. I do. I think some of it's where the enemy puts more weight on it and he amplifies that. He turns up the volume on it. So it's like, wow, he just cranked that up. I heard that at, 1,000 decibels. And that's where God wants to say, no, let's turn that down. That's true. That may have been a thing, but like let's turn that down. But I think there's a spiritual component to it. I think sometimes I turn up the volume on it. And because I think sometimes I put the expectations on myself.
That's absolutely right. I've told my wife that whatever expectations you have of me, they pale in comparison to the expectations I have on myself.
Yep.
And mine are so unhealthy, I'll never reach those. I'll never reach those expectations. And I hate that. So then I think the battle is now, and I'm not sure I have a great answer. I wish I did, but you're the pastor, so you got to solve this for us. Sounded like Jim there, didn't I? So we should be challenging ourselves with what we're thinking about. And I know that sounds crazy silly and very easy. As Proverbs says, as a man thinks in his mind, so is he.
Yep.
And I remember a coach, I think it was George Raveling back in the day when he was actually a coach at Washington State before he went to USC. He said that my dad used to get tapes of, you go to coaching clinics all the time and hear these coaches talk. John Wooden, Raveling, all these old, Ralph Miller, all these guys. But that was one that I remember I listened to on a cassette tape. It was a George Raveling talk that talked about As a man thinks in his mind, so is he. And he was just saying that. I didn't even, until later, I didn't know it was actually in Proverbs, but it is. So if the Bible tells us that repeatedly, by the way, then isn't it also saying that we have that power?
Yeah.
We have that. I know it's easier
Yeah.
to believe negatives about ourselves. It just is. I don't know why. It's harder to believe the positives, but isn't that why the Bible takes the time to give us the challenge of taking every thought captive in the first place?
Exactly.
Why should that even be an issue?
Why
should we have to be reminded of that?
Oh, I agree with that. Oh, no, and why should we? You said something about a coach just a few seconds ago, and that I remember. So right now, our assistant GM for the Trailblazers is Andre Patterson. He was a former player, great guy, loves Jesus. He comes to all of our chapels. He played for Bobby Knight, Indiana. And I was talking with him one night after chapel. I said, what was it like playing for Bobby Knight back in the day? Because I had made a reference in chapel one night. I didn't play for Bobby Knight, but in college, I played for a coach who idolized Bobby Knight and modeled after him. And so I was sharing with Andre, I said, was it really like, what was it like for playing Bobby Knight? Was it just that rough? And because we were comparing stories to the coach I had. My coach would shred me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was so loud. I'd get on the court and he would yell. I mean, he would demoralize me on the court. I remember while I'm playing in games, I'd be standing on the court in the middle of a game by the opposing team's bench, and the players that I'm playing against.
Sorry, dude.
They were like, bro, I'm sorry. In fact, they were whispering from the bench, hey, come to our college.
Yeah.
Your coach is a jerk.
Get
man.
you in the transfer portal.
Oh, they were. It was, they did. Back then it was, and I remember I played, it was like my third season. I was the first, under his coaching, I was the first player to only play 4 years. Every other guy quit.
Wow.
That was his reputation. No guy could last. I was the first player to play for him that finished 4 years. And I remember my second year, I got all Canadian. And I was like, I had a really great season. And I said, Coach, why are you so hard on me? Why am I always an example? Why am I always, you yell at me more, humiliate me more in the court? I said, I don't know if I want to play for you anymore. I remember having this heart-to-heart with him. And this is what he told me. He goes, because I expect more from you. You're our best player. I push you because I want, and I was like, I get that, but that doesn't motivate me. You highlight, because this is what I told him. I go, before you've said something, I've already been harder on myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't need you to add to my own self-criticism. I actually, Coach, need you to pull me out of myself, because I'm going to spiral. I need you to help me. That doesn't mean you can't still push me and challenge me. I'm not saying that, but like,
I was going to say, even if that fear makes you perform better,
right,
it may not be helping you mentally.
Yeah. So it was a good, and he was a great coach. He did a lot of things, took care of me in my personal life, and I was really grateful for him. But like, that was a kind of a heart-to-heart moment. And I think like, that's when he said, hey, because I expect more of yourself because of your potential. I go, I think I do that. I go, I expect sometimes it's okay to push ourselves, and I get that, be driven. I think I expect too much of myself to be the perfect dad, the perfect husband, perfect pastor, perfect leader, perfect da-da-da-da-da. And I know I'm not perfect. I'm not saying that in an egotistical way. I don't give myself grace.
Exactly.
I don't extend I can extend. People tell me, you're the most gracious guy. Yes, with everybody else but myself.
Jeez.
I'm the hardest on
That's why
myself.
we get along so well.
Because
we're deficient in the same areas.
Exactly.
Say, in the last couple of minutes then, what's something we can work on to give ourselves grace? How do we do that? Because I really would like to know. And I wish I had an answer.
There's a verse where Paul said, I've stopped evaluating others from a worldly point of view. And what he meant by that was, he goes, I see people now the way God sees them. I don't keep score. I don't transaction with people. I see their value and all that. And I love that he said that. He goes, I don't see others from a worldly point of view. I need to start seeing myself not from a worldly point of view.
And how God sees you.
Exactly. And this comes back full circle to your verse about taking every thought captive, because he says in that verse, as we take every thought captive, we demolish strongholds. And a stronghold is a way of thinking that's demoralizing. It's negativity. It's depression and heart, all that kind of stuff. And that doesn't mean we can't be open to coaching and all that, being teachable. That's for another podcast. that's healthy, how we receive healthy criticism and feedback. That's we need that. We're talking in this episode about how we just spin in the negativity and just set up camp there. I think it's like, God, I have to begin to make new agreements with take every thought captive, means I have to listen to your promises and words of who I am, and choose in that moment that who you say and what you say about me is more important than what I say about myself, the negative stuff, and what others say negatively about me. I'm choosing to elevate God's words over the opinions of myself and others. It's a faith thing every stinking time. And you said earlier, rebuke, because I do that. I have to. It's hard. But that word rebuke means to correct. And so sometimes when that negative stuff is, I'll literally say, I rebuke that lie. I rebuke that thought in Jesus' name. I actually will say that out loud. Sometimes I even driving in my truck by myself. I rebuke that thought.
I started doing that when you talked about that one time.
Yeah. And I have to actually sometimes verbalize that I am right now tearing up the contract I've made with Satan's lies. And I'm now making a new contract, a new agreement with God's truth of how he sees me, which comes back to, if you're not in God's word and his promises.
Yes.
And I love what you texted me earlier today. We have to feed our mind on the truth of what God says about us. Because if I'm not in God's word, I'm not reading his promises and truth of who I am, I'm starving that feeding of the good things in me. And what I end up doing is I just feed the unhealthy lies. And what they say this, what you feed grows, what you starve dies. And so I got to feed the truth more, not feed the lies more. And that practically speaks of being in God's word, making agreements with the promises of who he says about me, and then being with other guys who will speak the truth of God's word over me. That's how we do it. That's how we win that battle.
And think how much, and I say this for myself too, think how much pride we'll feel and how much better we'll feel about ourselves if we start to accomplish this, because it's reachable if we have the right discipline. And you talked about getting in the word, and that helps you to start to realize how God sees you. And if you can change that, you're on your way.
Exactly.
And then think about the pride you'll feel the next time you feel those thoughts creep up and you start to go down that path, because we know what that feels like. That tumble starts like that boulder coming down a hill. Find a way to stop that. And oftentimes I think it can be as simple as, number one, taking your thoughts captive, rebuking those thoughts in the name of Jesus, and then getting to the point through discernment and through discipline where you can start to see yourself the way God sees you.
That's it. Perfect.
That's good stuff. Yeah. And this is one that we've probably hit kind of around this stuff. But once again, on other podcasts, but this subject and the battles that we both face are the battles that a lot of our friends and brothers face. It's one of the main reasons that we started the podcast.
That's it. Exactly.
We love you guys. Thank you for spending time with us, as always. We invite you to subscribe to our podcast, comment, or message us, and check out our website at verticalpursuit.org. Download the VP app and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.